Hi grade 3s, welcome. I'm glad you joined me today. We're going to be reading an article called Understanding How COVID-19 Spreads. And it is an article that's out of a little publication called The Canadian Teacher, and it's from issue 7 in the 2019-2020 season. And it looks like this, and I've actually sent a copy of this to your parents' email with this week's schedule. You're welcome to download it from there or print it, although you don't really need to, because in a moment I'm going to actually stick this under the document camera and you're going to be able to see that on the screen, and I'm going to read it and you can follow along with the words there. If you'd prefer just to read it on your own, you're welcome to do that as well. However, I am going to talk at the end of this video a little bit about the response sheet that we're going to do today and just give you some little tips and things to think about when you're filling it out. So you'll want to make sure that you see that at the end. All right. I'm going to go get the document camera set up and we will begin in just a moment. See you soon. And I'm back. Okay. I actually lied, and I'm going to show you the response sheet at the beginning, not just at the end. We'll visit it again at the end. But I think it's always good before we read to take a look at what are we going to be asked to write about afterwards. Okay, so this is a reflect on what you read, and when we reflect, we are thinking deeply. Not always just the first thing that comes into our mind, but really thinking about it. Okay, so as we read the article, I want you to be thinking about these sentence starters. I feel. So I want you to notice your feelings as we read the article, and you may have more than one. I wonder. So these would be things that are questions that you start to think about. Or if you don't have questions you're thinking about, does this remind you of something, or does something in the article remind you of something else that you've seen before or heard before or read before? Okay, so either a question that you're having or something that you are being reminded of. And then this bottom section says something important, surprising, or interesting. Notice it has the word or here, so you don't need to tell me something important and surprising and interesting. You can pick one of those. Okay, so listen for maybe an important fact, or notice when something surprises you as we read, or something that you found interesting that you didn't know before. And then why do you think that that thing is either important, surprising, or interesting? Okay, so what it is, and then I think this is surprising or interesting or important because, all right, and then give me an answer. Okay, we'll do some examples at the end. Let's take a look at our article. The first thing I want to point out is this is an article, and you will see articles in newspapers or in magazines, and it's a little bit different than reading a book. First of all, when we read an article, you'll notice that the words are divided into columns often. So there's this space down the middle. And what we do is we read through one column until we get to the bottom, and then we start at the top and read the second column. Different than when we read a book and we just go straight across the page. That's not going to work here. You'll also notice some nonfiction text features. And can you remember what nonfiction means? That's right. You were right if you said that it is true fact reading. And we looked at a number of different things that we might find in nonfiction books. And one of those was text boxes, right? Sometimes there's captions that explain a picture more, and sometimes there's a text box like this that just has a little bit of extra information in it, or something for you to think about. Another thing that I notice in here, another feature, is these bold words, which are headings. They're like titles. So it divides the article into different sections. And having the heading really helps our brain get ready for the kind of information that we're about to read. And so it can help organize all these facts in our heads for us while we read. Okay, so it's really important that we don't skip over the headings. Okay, you can follow along with me, and I'm going to read. I'll adjust the camera as much as I can so that you can see the words clearly. Okay, understanding how COVID-19 spreads. Are you stuck at home? Well, thank you. Thank you for taking COVID-19 seriously. Your family understands that we all need to work together to slow the spread of this virus. By staying home, you are doing your part. And I just want to mention to Michelle, if you're watching this video, I actually picked this article because you had mentioned that you were interested in learning more about viruses and germs. And so here you go. But I hope we all learn a little something today from it. A new virus. Have you ever had a cold or the flu or chicken pox? Then you know about viruses. They can make you sick. You try not to spread germs around. You stay home until you are no longer infectious. And infectious means that you can spread the germs to other people. And for different viruses, there's different lengths of time that you would be infectious. You're not infectious forever, so that's a good thing. A virus is too small to see. It cannot survive by itself. It needs to get inside a host. Often the host is an animal. Sometimes it's a human. Inside the host, the virus invades cells. Then it makes copies of itself until it kills the cells. And cells are little parts that make up our body. So we have skin cells, we have muscle cells, we have hair cells, and they're too small to see. You need a microscope to see them as well. But what happens with the virus is the virus gets inside those cells, and then it can actually become bigger. It makes copies of itself until it overtakes the cell and kills the cell. And that's when people start to get sick. But the body fights back. Its immune system is designed to fight off invaders like viruses. During the battle, the sick person may feel lousy. COVID-19 symptoms include fever, a cough, and feeling tired. It's like having a bad cold or the flu. With a strong immune system, the body will win. In general, kids have a strong immune system. Kids have strong immune systems. After an unpleasant week or two, you'll likely feel fine. Okay, and that's important for you to know. That as kids, you typically have strong immune systems. And your immune system is this amazing system in your body that helps fight off germs and helps keep you healthy. And because kids have a strong one, then they're maybe going to get a fever or a cough, and they're not going to feel real great, but only for a couple of weeks, and then they're going to get better. The important thing is not to infect others while you are sick. That's because some people can become seriously ill and end up in the hospital. So some people do not have a very strong immune system, and if they were to get the virus, they would get sicker than somebody that does have a strong immune system. And you could be passing on germs to them, not on purpose, but we're going to learn about how to not pass these germs on. How it spreads. COVID-19 is infectious. It spreads from person to person. This happens when a sick person coughs or sneezes. Tiny droplets fly through the air. Now that's why when we're in the classroom or anywhere, we've taught you to cough into your elbow. right? So that helps stop them from flying too far in the air, but it also helps not get those germs and those viruses on your hands, which is going to be touching other things that people will touch. Or a sick person might touch something like a doorknob. When other people use the doorknob and later touch their nose or mouth, they become infected. Hands up. The best way to avoid getting COVID-19, wash your hands with soap and water. That kills the virus. After you touch something that others have touched, wash your hands. Every time you come home, wash your hands. A good hand wash takes at least 20 seconds, enough time to sing happy birthday twice. Scrub all the parts of your hands. Okay, so it's telling you all the parts. So this is your palm. You want to scrub the palms, the backs, between the fingers. Sometimes we forget that. And so a good way of doing that is to really scrub that soap in like this, in between. And our fingertips, we want to make sure we get the tips. I also like to do my fingernails with a nail brush. And also, not to forget your thumbs. Okay, thumbs are such an important part of our hand, but when we're washing them, we often may skip over them. So just to be aware of that. Right. Scrub all parts of your hands, palms, backs, between the fingers, the fingertips. And the thumbs. Hand washing with soap is best, but hand sanitizer also works. So any kind of soap is the best to wash your hands with. Okay, and then if you don't have soap around, maybe you're out in the car, then you can use hand sanitizer. But if you're at home, use soap and water. It's actually better than hand sanitizer. Now that you have clean hands, it's safe to scratch your itchy nose. So you want to try not to, when you're out and about, try not to touch your eyes and your nose and your mouth. Try not to have your hands near your face. Sometimes we do it without even thinking. But we want to just start really to think about that. Keep your distance. The other way to slow the spread of the virus, get serious about physical distancing. That means staying 2 meters away from everyone. 2 meters is about 2 arm lengths. It's further than the droplets from someone's cough will travel. All right, so if you think about spreading your arms way out to the sides, that would be, so if you look at one arm, that would be 1 arm's length. And then if you could add another arm onto the end of that arm, that would be 2 arms length. So if you spread your hands out on both sides of your body, from fingertip to your other fingertip, that's about how far you should be. Or 2 great big giant steps away if you were to take a huge step twice. At that distance, you are safe from others. Oop, you can't see that. Okay, so I'm right here. At that distance, you are safe from others. And if there's the slightest chance that you are sick, they will be safe from you. Staying home as much as possible also helps contain the virus. Okay, and you've heard a lot about the importance of staying home. That's why you haven't been able to go out. You haven't been able to go to your gymnastics classes or your karate classes or your basketball. That's why we're not in school, because it's hard to keep that distance. And so right now, while we're trying to get the virus under control, we need to stay those 2 meters apart, or those 2 arm lengths apart. Breaking the chain. If you are getting grumpy about being cooped up, try to remember it's not all about you. It's about protecting others in your community. It's a responsible thing to do, so give yourself a pat on the back. This crisis won't last forever, but for now, it's very important. And the word crisis just means an important time, or a time where it could be dangerous, but we need to do safe things. It's not going to last forever. If we act now, even if it seems like a big ask, things will be better tomorrow, says the Prime Minister, and he's the leader of Canada. And here's just a little little comment. As you see it, what is the importance of this article? Okay, so what would you say the main idea? We practiced main idea in class. What would you say the main idea of this article is? I would say the main idea is to understand how we can do our part in helping to not spread the virus to other people. Okay, and at the bottom here is just a little picture of two people saying hello, but they're staying 2 meters apart from each other, not getting too close. And I'm sure you've seen that and that you have been doing that yourself if you have been out at all. Okay, so that is the article. I'm sure that a lot of that information you've been hearing on the news or in talking with your parents or brothers and sisters. And I hope you were able to learn something new as well about viruses. Okay, so going back to our response sheet. Remember, the first part is going to be talking about how you feel. So how did this article make you feel? I know for me, at the beginning, I was feeling a little bit nervous because of how serious viruses can be, but I also felt hopeful because if I did my part and other people do their part, then we're going to be able to get through this and not spread the virus to very many people. And what do you wonder? Did you have any questions that came to mind? Or anything that it reminded you of? I know one thing it reminded me of was teaching last year, and I was teaching about germs, and we watched a video about how to properly cough and how to properly sneeze so that we weren't spreading germs, and that would be the same kind of idea here, so I connected to that. Something important, surprising, or interesting. I think my favorite part of the article was the part right near the end where it said, if you're getting grumpy about being cooped up, right, having to stay in your house, try to remember it's not all about you. So instead of you thinking, oh, this is so hard, I'm so bored, it's not about you. It's about keeping everybody safe, right? It's about protecting others. And so I think if we can think about that, then that will help us maybe have a little bit more positive attitude towards this. Even though it is hard, it's okay to feel like it's hard, but we need to remember why we're doing it. And I would say that that's an important thing from this article. And I think because, just for those reasons that I just explained, right? Because we need to start thinking about not just ourselves and other people and protecting other people. I would feel awful if I didn't do my part and then I got somebody else sick. Okay, so you are going to do this worksheet. And like I said before, there is a copy on the email. And you can print that off if you're allowed to, but you don't have to do that actually. You could draw these if you wanted to in your notebook or on a piece of paper and then just answer the questions. You might need to look at the email so that you can see what the words say. The one that I have on your schedule is pretty small. Or you could just write, I feel, and finish the sentence. Give me some details. And just write all of the sentences down on a piece of paper. All right, so remember to be thoughtful. Don't just think about the first thing that came to your mind. and write them in some good sentences. All right, and no bare naked sentences. I want to see capitals and periods on those sentences. All right, and thank you again for joining me today, and we will talk again soon.